The final months of the Second World War, from the summer of 1944 to the spring of 1945, became a period of critical decline for Germany. The Third Reich, which once claimed a 1,000-year existence, was in its death throes. Allied armies advanced on all fronts, and their air forces dominated the skies. German cities suffered devastating bombings, and the air defense system proved incapable of effectively countering enemy bombers. The Luftwaffe, once the pride of Nazi Germany, was losing aircraft faster than they could be replaced. The traditional Messerschmitt Bf-109 and Focke-Wulf Fw-190 fighters proved powerless against the new challenges. They required long airfields, complex maintenance, and significant resources for production. As Germany's resources were depleted and its industry came under heavy attack, the need arose for a fundamentally new approach. Air defense demanded aircraft capable of meeting several critical requirements. They had to be technologically simple for rapid production under conditions of limited resources. They had to provide high rates of climb to quickly intercept enemy bombers at high altitudes. A third requirement was a high maximum speed to effectively attack and evade enemy escort fighters. Traditional piston engines proved incapable of delivering such performance within the limited time frame. German engineers turned to rocket technology. Rocket engines, already in use in experimental projects, promised a revolutionary solution. Their immense thrust allowed an aircraft to rapidly gain altitude and achieve the necessary speed. In this context, the idea of creating the Bachem Ba-349 Natter was born, an aircraft intended to become the answer to the air defense crisis. This project was an attempt to find a way out of a situation where every minute and every aircraft were of decisive importance. Germany needed a machine capable of responding quickly to aerial threats, without relying on complex infrastructure or costly materials. The Natter was meant to be both a weapon and a symbol of the last hope to change the course of the war in the skies. This need triggered a chain of events that led to the emergence of one of the most unusual aircraft of the Second World War. The development of such a solution required engineering skill and a radical rethinking of the concept of an air defense aircraft under conditions of total resource scarcity. In 1944, Germany faced a catastrophic air defense crisis. For the second year in a row, engineers were searching for new solutions capable of turning the course of the air war. The key to overcoming this critical situation was rocket engine technology. Among the few engines that had proven their effectiveness in combat, one stood out in particular: Helmut-Walter's HWK-109-500 liquid fuel rocket engine. This unit was successfully used on the Me-163 rocket interceptor, which, despite numerous design flaws, demonstrated an impressive ability to rapidly climb and reach high speeds. The Me-163, however, had a critical drawback. Its limited range severely restricted its combat use. Pilots could spend only a few minutes in the air actively maneuvering before being forced to glide back for landing. The new aircraft had to overcome these limitations while retaining simplicity of production and cost efficiency. The task was clearly formulated. A machine was needed that could instantly respond to enemy bombers, be cheap to manufacture, and free from dependence on complex ground infrastructure. To solve this problem, the Luftwaffe organized an open competition that attracted the attention of all the major aviation companies of the Third Reich. Industrial giants such as Messerschmitt, Focke-Wulf, and Heinkel submitted their design proposals. Each company expected significant orders in the event of victory. Experts anticipated that the winner would be one of the well-known firms with vast engineering resources and years of experience in creating combat aircraft. The result of the competition shocked the aviation community. The victory went to the little-known company Bachem Ba, led by engineer Erich Bachem. Their project, later designated the Ba-349 Natter, impressed with its radical simplicity and cost-effectiveness. Bachem proposed a revolutionary concept for an aircraft designed for mass production. According to his idea, the machine could be built in any carpentry workshop, using readily available materials and minimizing production costs. This approach opened the way for decentralized production, which was critically important under constant bombardments of industrial centers. The victory of Bachem Werke was the result of a fundamentally new approach to solving the technical problem. Bachem focused on creating an aircraft that would do without expensive materials or complex technologies. Instead of traditional aviation aluminum and precision mechanisms, he proposed a structure made of ordinary plywood and metal tubing. Such an approach reduced production costs many times over and fully matched the wartime reality when Germany's resources were critically limited. Strategic materials were directed to the production of tanks and artillery, leaving the aviation industry to make do with alternatives. Bachem also proposed an elegant solution to the Me-163's short-range problem. The aircraft was to be equipped with additional solid-fuel boosters, allowing it to rapidly gain altitude without consuming the rocket engine's main fuel supply. This concept became the cornerstone of the Natter project and defined its further development. The competition ended, and Bachem Werke received a unique opportunity to prove that this revolutionary project could fundamentally change the principles of the Reich's air defense. The concept of the BA-349 Natter, developed by Erich Bachem, was embodied in a unique design distinguished by simplicity and innovative solutions adapted to the conditions of wartime. The fuselage was built from a frame welded out of plumbing pipes covered with ordinary construction plywood. The pilot's cockpit was placed between two armored bulkheads 12 mm thick, providing basic protection. Forward visibility was ensured by a thick layer of armored glass 6 cm thick, allowing the pilot to keep sight of the target even in difficult conditions. Though primitive, this construction was carefully thought out to fulfill its main purpose: the rapid interception of enemy bombers. The BA-349's armament departed from traditional standards. Instead of the usual cannons or machine guns, its nose section contained launch rails for unguided rockets. These projectiles were designed to deliver a powerful salvo at close range, consistent with the tactics of quick bomber attacks. After the salvo, the nose cone was jettisoned, lightening the aircraft and allowing it to maneuver away from the target. This approach to armament was cost-efficient and aligned with the aircraft's single-use concept, since the BA-349 was never intended for prolonged aerial combat. The most revolutionary element of the Natter was its launch system. To eliminate the need for airfields, which were frequent targets of Allied aviation, the aircraft was fitted with 4 solid-fuel boosters, each providing 1,200 kilograms of thrust. These boosters enabled a vertical takeoff from a compact launch tower only 24 meters high. The launch preparation process was simplified to the extreme. After receiving target data from radar stations, the launch complex could be deployed in just 10 minutes. It consisted of 3 vehicles. The first carried the collapsible launch platform, the second transported the aircraft itself, and the third brought the remote control module. In the initial phase of flight, the Natter could be guided either by autopilot or by commands from the ground, reducing the pilot's workload during the intense vertical climb. These innovations made the BA-349 a manned missile engineered for lightning-fast interception. First, let's use the DA-349 in primary of the Toriel, the Dargig Popschers Conditions Compactory. Hopefully it's down to delt planning of normal wrong and rapid on the long from permissive biological use.
The concept of the BA-349 Natter gained approval and significant support from the Luftwaffe and from Reichsfuhrer SS Heinrich Himmler in the mid-20th century. By 1944, the strategic importance of Erich Bachem's project for Germany's war effort had become evident. To accelerate development, engineers from other aviation enterprises were brought into the staff of Bachem Werke. Their expertise helped refine the design and prepare the aircraft for testing. On September 5, 1944, a full-scale model of the Natter was tested in a wind tunnel, allowing an assessment of its aerodynamic characteristics. Encouraging results cleared the way for the next stage, actual flight trials. On October 4, 1944, Captain Erich Kluckner carried out the first gliding flight in a BA-349, equipped with ballast instead of an engine. This flight confirmed the viability of the design. Kluckner noted the aircraft's decent handling, which improved with speed and altitude. However, a full evaluation of controllability was hindered by technical limitations. The first prototype had fixed landing gear, which created additional drag and made maneuvering more difficult. Furthermore, the flight took place at speeds lower than those anticipated for combat use with a rocket engine. Despite these shortcomings, the results were positive enough to justify continuing development. The Luftwaffe and Himmler saw in the Natter a potential asset for rapid deployment in the air defense system. Such an aircraft could strengthen the protection of German cities against Allied bombing. On December 18, 1944, tests with an active engine began. The Natter performed flights in automatic mode without a pilot, equipped with recording instruments. These trials confirmed the calculated characteristics: stable vertical takeoff and effective operation of the solid fuel boosters. The unmanned flights allowed engineers to identify and eliminate minor flaws before moving on to piloted trials. The Luftwaffe's support remained steady as the Natter promised a cost-effective solution for intercepting enemy bombers without the need for airfields or complex logistics. Development showed that Bachem's project, for all its simplicity, carried genuine potential. Yet serious challenges still lay ahead, tied to piloted flights and eventual combat use. The development of the Ba 349 Natter reached a critical stage. The time had come for manned flights with the rocket engine engaged. The first such flight was scheduled for March 1, 1945, with Senior Lieutenant Lothar Siebert in the cockpit. At 11 o'clock in the morning, the solid fuel boosters and the main HWK 109-500 engine ignited. The Natter, spewing flames, shot skyward. The vertical takeoff proceeded successfully. The craft quickly gained altitude and vanished into the clouds. The joy, however, lasted only a moment. 5 seconds after liftoff, the aircraft suddenly entered an uncontrollable dive. At an altitude of around 500 meters, the cockpit canopy separated, but Lothar Siebert remained trapped inside. 32 seconds after launch, the BA 349 struck the ground and exploded. Analysis of the accident pointed to a likely cause: loss of control due to excessive G-forces during the vertical climb, which either disoriented the pilot or damaged the control systems. The tragedy, however, was not enough to halt work on the Natter. Germany was in such a desperate situation that even the loss of a pilot and prototype could not suspend a project regarded as a potential lifeline for the nation's air defenses. The engineers of Bachem Ba, reinforced by attached specialists, continued testing with even greater intensity. By mid-April 1945, they had carried out 34 more flights, 7 of which were successful manned tests. These trials helped improve the design, particularly by addressing the overload issues during the launch phase. At the same time, serial production had begun. In a short span, about 50 aircraft were assembled, and the first air defense batteries were formed for the deployment of the Natter in the protection of German cities. An important step was the creation of a modification equipped with a new engine, the dual-chamber HWK 509C1 power unit. This engine featured an additional combustion chamber, which significantly reduced fuel consumption and doubled the operational range compared to the previous version. Such improvements were critical, as the main problem of rocket interceptors like the Me-163 remained their extremely limited time in the air. The new modification gave the pilot more time to aim at a target and carry out an attack, making the Natter more practical under combat conditions. Although precise data on the operational use of these aircraft is lacking, it is known that several units were prepared for full deployment. As the war drew to a close, the BA 349 Natter remained an unfinished experiment, unable to change the course of events in the skies over Germany. Several units were prepared for combat deployment, but no reliable evidence exists of their participation in actual battles. In the first half of the 20th century, the project lost its relevance with the approach of Allied forces.
American troops captured at least 2 examples of the Natter, while one fell into Soviet hands. The victorious nations showed only limited interest in the aircraft. Despite its innovative aspects, the design appeared too primitive to post-war engineers and scientists. Built from plumbing pipes and plywood, with minimal technological sophistication, the Natters seemed more a product of desperation than a promising development for the future of aviation. Yet the Ba 349 incorporated one feature that was ahead of its time and found application much later: thrust vectoring. This system was realized in an archaic yet pioneering form. Behind the main HWK 109-500 rocket engine were 2 heat-resistant alloy vanes positioned directly in the exhaust stream. These vanes were linked by rods to the control surfaces, allowing the pilot to proportionally deflect them by moving the control stick. This altered the direction of the hot gas flow, theoretically improving the aircraft's maneuverability. The system was intended to give the Natter greater flexibility during attacks or evasive maneuvers against enemy escort fighters, enabling rapid course changes without major alterations to the airframe. In practice, however, the effectiveness of this solution remained unproven. Available sources provide no evidence of significant results during thrust vectoring tests. Still, this technology, though primitive in execution, was pioneering. In modern aviation, thrust vectoring systems are widely used in highly maneuverable fighters such as the F-22 or Su-35, enabling complex maneuvers impossible for aircraft with conventional engines. The Ba 349, of course, could demonstrate only limited potential due to its simplicity and extremely short flight time. The pilot had little more than 2 minutes for an attack after climbing to 10,000 meters. Yet the very fact that such a concept was implemented in the mid-20th century reflects remarkable engineering foresight, even if overshadowed by the desperate circumstances of war. The Natter remains in history as an example of a Wunderwaffe, a weapon created in conditions of extreme necessity. Despite its limited practical value, it contained ideas that influenced the development of aviation technologies. More akin to a guided missile than a traditional fighter, it became a symbol of Germany's desperate attempts to save its air defenses. Its true legacy lay in a technology that would find real application decades later.